Om Sadashiva-Samarambham Shankaracharya-Madhyamam Asmadacharya-Paryantam Vande Guru Parampara. Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahana Bhunaktu Saha Veeryam Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. So we'll continue with where we left off. We had completed mantra number 9 of the second section. So we are on mantra number 10 today. So let us chant that. Ishtapurtam manyamana-varishtham.
Ishtapurtam manyamana varishtham
Nanyachreyo vedayante pramudha.
Nanyatreyo vedayante pramudaha
Nakasya prishte te sukrutenu bhutva.
Nakasya prishte te sukrito bhutva
Imam lokam hinataram va vishanti.
Imam lokam hinataram vavishanti.
Okay, so I'm just muting all of you. Right. So look at what it says initially. Pramudaha, that is the second line of the mantra, the deluded ones. Manyamanaha, so you have to jump in between lines. Pramudaha, manyamanaha, those who consider, those deluded ones who consider, ishtapurtam, rituals, varishtham, as superior. Okay, so if you look at the Anvaya, actually it is pramudaha manyamanaha ishtapurtam varishtham. You are jumping from line 1 to 2 and back again. And what is it about these pramudhas? Na vedayante, they do not know anyat shreyaha, anything superior to this karma, to the rituals. That is one statement. Then anubhutva, having enjoyed their karma and karma phalam, where prishthe nakasya, in heaven, they go to heaven and they enjoy the karma phalam. And these karma phalams have been achieved to sukrute, through punya karma. What happens after having enjoyed anubhutva? After having enjoyed, what happens? Te vishanti, they come back, imam lokam, to this world, va hinataram, or to a lower one. So this idea is nothing new. In which chapter of the Gita did we see this? The idea is there, but which chapter of the Gita did we see this? Anybody can quote the exact line which has the same meaning?
Sir, that Shine Punye verse, but I don't recollect the
Shine Punye
chapter.
Martyalokam Vishanti.
Martyalokam.
Basically the same idea. So here the teacher is criticizing all those people, all those Sakama Bhaktas, all those karmis who are addicted to only Sakama Karma, to rituals, etc. Now the word Ishtam here has to be understood correctly. Normally Ishtam means that which is desired. But here the word Ishtam is from a different root. It's from the Yaj Dhatu. The Yaj Dhatu is for worship, means to worship. Yaj means to worship. And therefore here Ishtam refers to Vedic rituals. So Vedic rituals means rituals found in Shruti, which is otherwise called Shrauta Karma or Shrauta Karmani. The word Shrauta refers to Shruti, and therefore they are called Shrauta Karmani. So that is Ishtam over here. Then you will find that when you study the the Vedas as well as the subsidiary texts, the Smritis, etc., Bhagavatam, Puranam, Manusmriti, all these, when you study, you will find that the rituals, the Vedic karma, are there in Vedas itself. So that is called Shrauta karma. But you will find that there are several varieties of karma. Karma by karma, I mean puja, upasana, etc. You will find that puja, upasana, etc. are also prescribed in the Smritis, in Mahabharata, in Ramayana, and Purana, and Bhagavatam. You will find all these are prescribed and they have a different name. From the word Shruti comes Shrauta, and from the word Smriti comes, anybody knows? What is the word which is derived from Smriti? Just as Shrauta is derived from Shruti.
Smartha.
Martha. So
Smartha.
there are two words, Martha karma and Shrauta karma. Shrauta karma means rituals which are found in the Vedas, in the Shruti itself. Smartha karma means, it's not smarta karma, okay? It is smartha karma. Smartha karma derived from Smriti, which are rituals found in the Smritis. So these rituals found in the Smritis is referred to here by a technical word called Purtam. And the rituals found in the Smritis, in the Shrutis, is referred to by Ishtam. So Ishtam means those Vedic karma which are prescribed in Shruti. Purtam means those Vedic karmas which are prescribed in Smritis. And therefore, Ishtha Purtam means varieties of karma prescribed in Smriti and Smriti and Shruti. Shruti means Vedic texts. Smriti means texts like Purana, non-Vedic, means non-Upanishad, non-Veda, basically non-Veda, not non-Upanishad, non-Veda. Non-Veda texts are Smritis, Ramayana, Mahabharata, Manusmriti, Parashara Smriti. There are many of them. Okay. So there are many activities prescribed there. And what is an example of Purta karma? They are like Smartha karma, for example. They are activities which are for social benefit, like constructing temples, digging wells, putting up shelters for the old people, putting up food for the needy people. And in the modern age, if you want to modernize that activity, you can talk about, setting up hospitals, setting up schools, setting up old age homes. And in some cities, especially in Gujarat, you'll find that in many places, people put a pot of water outside their house in summer. What is it meant for? Anybody traveling by can, or passing by and feeling thirsty can drink. So it's a very nice concept. It's meant for helping other people without any expectation of any return. And what is striking here, at least in Gujarat, I find that you will find these pots everywhere. Outside the house or outside the houses, outside the shops, you'll find pots. Anybody can come and drink. Then you can have things like putting up an umbrella, where you have traffic police standing in the heat all the time. You'll find that some people go and put up an umbrella. Any action in this form of outreach, where the primary focus is on the benefit to others, and he is not looking at the benefit to himself. All these are purtams. And ishtams, of course, are those particular rituals, Agnihotram, etc., prescribed in the Shruti. So ishtha purtam essentially means karmas which are prescribed in the Veda and karmas which are prescribed in the Smritis also. And what is he saying? These people, they have grown addicted to these activities. Now they know the activities are meant for what? As a form of karma yoga. And karma yoga and upasana yoga are always meant for what? For chitta shuddhi, for your spiritual growth. But there are people who do this with another motive in mind. So they want to be well known, they want to be famous, they want to be known as very charitable people, right? So they do it. And here, of course, we must add that at least they are doing it. The motivation is, of course, the incorrect motivation from the point of view of Shruti, because they are not doing it for Chitta Shuddhi, they are doing it for name and fame. But doing it at all is not worse, or is much better than not doing it at all, right? So doing this, even for service, even for name and fame, is better than not doing it at all. That is a side note. But Shruti says these people are addicted to these particular karma, and for whatever reasons. And therefore, manyamana varishtham. They think that these are the best activities. And there are a lot of teachers who say that, through karma alone you can get moksha. You don't need to go to jnanam at all. Just do karma and you will get moksha. That's a complete school of thought dedicated to that. So, and that we know as Vedantic students that is not possible, because moksha is what? Understanding that you don't need moksha. Right? The understanding that you are Brahman, that you have never needed moksha, that is moksha. That understanding cannot come through any karma at all. And therefore, the mantra says, these people are pramudaha. Muda is a fool. Pra stands for prakarshena. Prakarshena means most excellent among, or outstanding. So pramudaha, excellent fools, outstanding among fools. The highest of all fools, the best of all fools they are. In terms of a ranking, they are the best among fools. And because they are mudaha, what happens? Na anyat shreyaha vedayante. They do not understand. Vedayante, they do not understand. Na anyat shreyaha. They do not understand that there is nothing which is superior to moksha. Shreyaha means moksha over here, can taken as superior also. They don't understand that there is nothing superior to moksha. So it might sound as if these activities which really benefit others, like all the activities which we have talked about, the smartha karma in particular, the purta karma, they really benefit others, and they should definitely be engaged in by people. So it's not that the Upanishad is criticizing Ishtapurta karma. They are all good actions. They are all enjoined by Smriti, and they should be done. But one should be aware of what is the final objective, what is the destination of all this karma. They are in the nature of yoga. Yoga is for what? Chitta Shuddhi. And therefore, you should not consider them as jnana sadhana. They are all Chitta Shuddhi sadhana only. Disciplines meant for getting Chitta Shuddhi and not jnanam, not moksha. This they should understand. And therefore, he says, nakasya prishte, te nakasya prishte. Though Shankara doesn't really say what nakasya means. So we look at the tika. So there are, you have the main Upanishad, which is called the Moolam, which is what other mantras we are reading. They are called the Moolam. Then to understand those mantras, we have commentators, like we follow Shankaracharya. So there is a bhashyam, it's a commentary. Now sometimes the bhashyakara, in this case Shankaracharya, he doesn't comment upon or doesn't comment enough upon a word, leaving it open to multiple interpretations. And therefore you have a third set of people who are sub-commentators. Sub-commentators do not comment on the main Moolam. They comment on the Bhashyam. And one of these commentaries are called Tikas. Tika, like the one you put on your forehead, like Tikas. So there is a Tikakara called Anandagiri, very, very famous Acharya. So he tells us what is Nakasya. So he says, come. So Nakasya is na kam. You have to look at that. Asya you take out from there. So nakam, nakam. So what is kam? He says kam is equal to sukham. Kam is happiness. And then he says, it's very involved, derivation. So he says kam is equal to sukham, happiness. Then he says sukham na bhavati iti akam, which means where there is no sukham, it is called akam. So akam is the exact opposite. So if kam is equal to sukham, akam is equal to what? Dukha. Right? So this is the derivation he is giving. Kam is equal to sukham, akam is equal to dukham, and where there is no akam, that is nakam. Very, it's like holding a nose from behind. Kam is equal to sukham, akam is equal to no sukham, which is dukham, and nakam is where there is no akam. Where there is no dukham, that is called nakam. So nakam is a place where there is no dukham at all, where there is only consistent sukham. And so, according to this derivation, nakam means the place where there is no dukham, which is what?
Swarga.
Which is swarga, right? So this is the definition. It's a very beautiful definition by Anandagiri, a bit complicated. Kam sukham, sukham na bhavati iti akam, which is called dukham. Tanna vidyate, where that akam is not there. Tanna vidyate, tat na vidyate, tat akam na vidyate, where that akam is not found. Yasmin asau nakam. That place is called nakam, Anandagiri, right? So nakam means swarga, and therefore nakasya prishtete. These people who have done all sort of rituals, thinking that that is the final destination for them, they go to Swarga. So Swarga can be taken as all the higher worlds up to Tapoloka. So he's telling you that Ishtapurta Karmani, Pravta Karmani and Smarta Karmani cannot take you beyond Swarga. And Swarga means all the lokas up to Tapoloka. So I don't know whether you guys know. How many lokas are above and how many lokas are below?
7 above, 7 below.
No.
Oh, 6 above the Bhuloka.
6 above and 7 below. Okay, so if you take Bhuloka as a loka where we are, then you have 6 lokas above that. Bhuvaloka, Suvaloka, Mahaloka, Janaloka, Tapaloka, and Brahmaloka. So Bhuva, Suva, Maha, Jana, and Tapaloka, they can be taken as Swarga. Beyond Swarga, of course, is Brahmaloka. So Swarga is 5 different lokas, and we can understand very, basically as different levels of pleasure. So there will be more and more pleasure in each of these lokas, which means you have more and more subtle bodies, which means according to the punyam that you have generated, you can go to Bhuvaloka or Suvaloka or Mahaloka or Janaloka or Tapaloka. All depends upon how much punyam balance you have. It's like whether I can go to Sri Lanka on my vacation or whether I can go to the US. It depends upon my bank balance, right? Similarly, upon your punyam balance, how far you travel, which loka you travel. So 6 is above. What about below? There are 7 below. So that's how they say 14 lokas. Bhuloka plus 6 above 7 and 7 below. And you should know the names. So Atala, Vitala, Sutala, Rasatala, Talatala, Mahatala, and Patala. So most of you may have heard of Patala, but Patala is the lowest among the lokas. There are 7. Atala, Vitala, Sutala, Rasatala, Talatala, Mahatala, Patala. Anyway, since you're unlikely as Vedantic students to go anywhere there, it's all right. You can just know the names. Okay. Now, what is the difference between these lokas, Swarga lokas up to Tapaloka and Brahmaloka? For Brahmaloka, which has got another name, Brahmaloka is also called Satyaloka. Okay. So to travel to the first 5 lokas, Swarga lokas, which are the first 5? Bhuva, Suva, Maha, Jana, Tapa. You have to have different stock of punyam, different balances of punyam. You must have generated punyam, but according to how much punyam generated, you can go there. But in the case of Satyaloka, Brahmaloka, pure punyam is not sufficient. So punyam is generated to 2 things. One is karma. So there is karma generated punyam, and there is punyam generated by karma accompanied by upasana. Okay, that is the difference. Actually, we have seen all this in chapter 8, but I'm just recalling that. So, punyam, you have two types, one generated by karma and one generated by karma accompanied by upasana. So, if you have only punyam generated by karma, it is sufficient to take you only up to Tapoloka. But if you have punyam generated by karma accompanied by upasana, that phalam is sufficient to take you to Brahmaloka. That is the difference. Okay. Then he says, Sukrute Anubhutva. Sukrute is Su Karma Phalam. Su is what? Auspicious karma, good karma. So karma phalam of good karma is Sukrute. Sukrute Anubhutva. Having enjoyed the fruits of your good karma, what happens? Where do you enjoy? In any one of these lokas. It can be either in the first 5 lokas up to Tapoloka. And if it is upasana, then it goes to Brahmaloka. So we are not looking at that at this point. Having enjoyed the fruits of karma, and incidentally, when we are saying Sukrute Anubhutva, literally that Sukrute can also mean karma accompanied by upasana. But in this context, you cannot take that. You have to take it as only the fruits of pure karma. How are you going to do that? What is the logic for saying that here Sukrute has to be fruits of pure karma only? What is the contextual framework from which you are saying it has to be pure karma?
Karmakanda rituals.
Karmakanda also talks about upasana. From the mantra itself, you have to say, what does it mean?
Hello, Raviji, may I make a try?
Please, Nataraj.
See, if you go to Brahmaloka, the probability of your coming back is probably 0. From there, you will probably go straight for moksha. Whereas all the others, the probability of your coming down is significant.
Yeah, so that's the right answer. And because he says that they are pramudaha, he has said that they are addicted to karma only. Ishtapurtam is only karma. They are addicted to karma. Therefore, they have not done upasana. And if you're going to say that he's going to come back, as Natarajan said, there is a good possibility, in fact, there's a very high possibility that once you go to Brahmaloka, you will go to Lord Brahmaji and get jnanam and get moksha. And therefore, this has to be taken only as pure karma only. So, Sukrute Anubhutva, having enjoyed the fruits of good actions, of good karma, imam lokam, this world, va, or hinataram vishanti. They come back to either this world or hinataram, which is lower worlds. Okay. Imam lokam vishanti. They will come back to this world, this bhuloka they will come back to, which means what? They will come back as a human being again. And they will get a fresh chance at generating fresh punyam and getting jnanam and all those things. Or hinataram va. So hinataram is basically there's a word called tiryang in Sanskrit. Tiryang means a living being which is not standing erect. No, it stands horizontally. So it's a reference to animals, because animals don't stand on 2 legs, they stand on 4 legs. And therefore, tiryak, from that tiryak comes the word tarahi, hinataram, tirang, right? So hinataram here means lower worlds, animal worlds. Okay. So you will either come to the bhuloka or tira, sideways. Tira is sideways. You will come to lower loka. Animals stand sideways, so they are called tiryangs. So either you will come to a human birth or you will come to an animal womb. This is the meaning. Now a question can arise here. If a person has performed a lot of good karma, in fact such good karma that they have gone to one of the swargas, then where is the question of having lower birth? So Shankara says, Yatha Karma Shesham. Because Karma Shesham, there is the whole, Shesham means balance, rest. The whole balance of Sanchita Karma left. And one can never know what part of the Sanchita Karma will fructify. You have had good fortune so far, so you've gone to Swarga. Now, a lot of Punyam has been there. But what is the balance in your Sanchita Karma, Karma Shesham? Is it pure, good karma? Is it pure bad karma? Is it a mixture of karma? And also, when Ishvara puts his hand in at random, which is that which is going to fructify? You don't know. And therefore, it is possible that he can go to a lower birth, even if he has been to Swarga in the previous birth. That is what Shankaracharya writes in his commentary. And that is why when we study Shastram, the focus should be not on travel to another Swarga. The focus should be on how to destroy Sanchita. But as long as Sanchita is there, your future is uncertain. You can go to lower births, you can come to Manusha Janma also. Okay. Now, we will chant the 11th mantra.
Acharya ji, may I ask a question now?
Please, please.
So Acharya ji, I thought there was no possibility of destroying your Sanchita in any other loka. So how, I thought only Manusha birth is the one where...
Correct, you're right. That's why I said the best way to study Shastram is not to look at ways of getting to higher and higher lokas, even to Brahma loka. Because as long as you are getting to other lokas, you are looking into the karma plus upasana part. The only way you can destroy Sanchita is where? In this loka itself, right? But you have to ensure that you're studying Jnanam. Jnanam is the only way to destroy. And therefore, looking into Shastra for getting better births is a waste of time. It's a misunderstanding of the very focus of Shastra.
Ji.
We have to study Shastra for the purpose of getting knowledge only.
Ji, but I think you also said that in Brahmaloka, he will have an opportunity of gaining Jnanam from Brahmaji.
Yes. So the what you say here, see, there is a sutra in Brahmaloka. Okay. Normally, what do we say? We say that only in the human birth you can get knowledge, right? But there's a whole section in Brahma Sutra where Acharya writes, saying that it is possible for devatas also to get knowledge. So with that understanding, you have to take it that yes, it is possible to go to Brahma Loka and get knowledge. There's a particular name for that. It's called Krama Mukti. You go to Brahma Loka, you are attending classes by Lord Brahmaji, and there you get the knowledge. Once you get the knowledge,
You mentioned it last time also, Krama Mukti. You mentioned in the last class also, you mentioned this word, Krama Mukti. I remember.
Krama Mukti is very much there in chapter 8. We have all done Gita.
So, Acharya ji, I have joined after that, the BG3.
Okay, so we'll...
I have another, it's not a question. I think these two terms, the Shrauta and Smartha, you use these two terms for describing the two Agnis after the Vivaha ceremony. The Shrauta Agni and the Smartha Agni, are they the same?
Yeah, they are the same terms. Agni, which is according to your Smartha rituals, is Smartha Agni. But unless Smartha Agni is there, you cannot generate or you cannot light the Shrauta Agni. So the thing is that during the wedding, the Smartha Agni is there. From the Smartha Agni, you take that brand of fire home, and then that you nurture for some time, and then from there you light the Shrauta Agni. So both terms are used, but generally whenever you say Shrauta, it means what is found in the Veda. When you say Smartha, you mean what is found in the non-Vedic spiritual texts like Smritis.
Thanks.
Sir, what does Prishte mean?
Prishte means top of, the very top.
Okay.
So Nakasya Prishte means the very top of the Swarga Loka. And here that has to be taken as Tapoloka only, the top of Sargalokas, not Brahmaloka.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Okay, so we look at
Mm.
the 11th month. Yeah, please go ahead.
So in Gita, Krishna mentioned that if you have sufficient, I mean, if you have started with your journey towards the Vedanta, you would not end up, I mean, you will come back to from where you ended your journey of knowledge.
Correct. So that is, we are talking about the Vedantic part. We are not talking about Karma Kanda or Upasana Kanda. So the guarantee given by Krishna is once you have started studying Vedanta,
Right.
then you can cancel this Hinataram from your dictionary. You will rotate only between upper lokas and bhuloka.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Okay. The 11th mantra. Tapashraddheye hyupavassantyaranye.
Shraddheye yupavasantyarane.
Shanta vidvamso bhaikshcharyam charantaha.
Shanta
Anta
vidvamso
vidvamso bhaikcharyam charantaha.
Surya dvarena te virajah prayanti.
Surya
Suryadvare
Dvarena
viraja prayanti.
Yatra mritasya purusho hyavyayatma.
Yatra
Yatra
purusho
mritah purusho
yavyayatma.
yavyayatma.
So I'll briefly give you the meaning again. Te vidvamsaha. So vidvamsaha normally means wise people, the one who has got vidya. But here we are talking about upasakas now. So te vidvamsaha, those upasakas, shantaha, whose minds are under control, who have got self-control. And what do? They charantaha bhaikshcharyam. They go around wandering and they get their food by way of bhiksha. So essentially they are close to sannyasis. And upavasanti, they take to tapaha and shraddhaha. So austerities, tapaha, and shraddha here means upasana, meditation. So they take to shraddha and meditation, or meditation and austerities, where aranya is a forest. So they go to the forest. So you can take them as vanaprasthis. And if you take them as vanaprasthis, then the bhikshacharyam makes sense, because vanaprasthis are also permitted to beg for their food. What is the result? Virajaha. Rajas. They become free of rajas. They become pure. And then what happens? Surya dvarena. Surya dvaram means through the solar path, through the path of the sun. Surya and dvaram. Dvaram is door or a path. Surya is Lord, is Surya, the sun. Surya dvarena, through the solar path, prayanti. Prayanti is entry to. They enter. Enter what? Yatra, that world. Yatra hi, that world where saha amritaha purushaha, that immortal Hiranyagarbha. Amritaha Purusha is immortal person. So here it is Hiranyagarbha. Saha Amritaha Purushaha means that immortal Hiranyagarbha. Avyayatma, who is of a nature which is avyayam. So here Atma is used in the sense of nature. So Avyayatma means the one who has the nature of avyayam, of non-decay. And that has to be taken as connected to Amritaha, because the person who is immortal, he cannot decay. So Saha Amritaha Avyayatma Purushaha means that immortal Hiranyagarbha who does not decay, who has no old age, who has no destruction. Okay. So now we are talking about what? We are talking about people who perform tapas, austerities. If you look at the flow of the verses, you will find that up to the 10th verse, the Upanishad is talking about apara vidya in the form of karma. lower vidya in the form of karma. Here also, in this mantra also, apara vidya is being talked about. But here it is in the form of upasana. What is the difference? Because both are karmas. Upasana is also a form of karma. So we must know the difference. In karma, the tool for doing action, the karanam for doing action is what is the body or the tongue. Two things are there, right? You can be doing verbal japa also, which is also karma. You can be doing parayanam, also karma. You can be doing with the body, puja. So kaika vyapara or vachika vyapara. Vachika vyapara means japa, parayanam, etc. Right? So it can be karma done using the body as a tool, karma done using the tongue as a tool, or karma done simultaneously using both as tool. Whether the activity is through the tongue or through the body, it is karma only. Okay. When you say manasika karma, so here two words are there. Kayika karma, karma done through the body. Vachika karma, karma done through the tongue. And there is a third category, manasika karma. In manasika karma, neither of these two, neither the body nor the tongue is going to be used. And therefore, and some people say that even the throat cannot be used. So it's a purely manasika activity, not involving body, tongue. And tongue, you have to take it as throat, because without moving the tongue, you can make noise in the throat also, right? So that is also not good, not to be used. A pure mental, without the use of any other, that becomes upasana. And in terms of benefits, there is a hierarchy. The hierarchy always depends upon which is more difficult, right? So since kaika karma, karma done with the body is the easiest to do, it is the lowest in the hierarchy. Karma done using the tongue is slightly more difficult, so it is the second highest in the hierarchy. And karma done using the mind is even more difficult, because to keep the mind focused is an achievement. And therefore, in the hierarchy, the benefits, the karma phalam arising out of upasana, that is manasika activity, is the highest. And that is why they say, unless you have upasana as accompaniment, you cannot go to Brahmaloka. I'm just trying to mute everybody, but somebody is keeping on unmuting. I'd request you not do that, because it will come in the recordings. Okay. Now, in the Vedas, a lot of upasanas have been prescribed, right? And for the upasanas itself, there is a lifestyle. So what is that we do? In Brahmacharya ashram, what do? We study the scriptures, we learn chanting, we learn the theory of the scriptures, etc. And we do a lot of upasanas, we do puja, everything we do. In Grihast, so that is a particular lifestyle. And Brahmacharya ashram also, strictly speaking, you are supposed to beg for your food. Bhiksha is predominant in Brahmacharya ashram. They are allowed to beg for food. In Grihastha ashram, I follow karma yoga. And there, since I am the contributor to society, I am not allowed to beg for my food. I have to contribute. So I am the person who supplies the food. In Vanaprastha, I follow Upasana yoga. In Grihastha, basically, I am doing karma yoga. The focus is on karma yoga. In Brahmacharya, it is focused on studying the scriptures and learning the theory of all this. After having graduated from Brahmacharya, I come to Grihastha, I do karma yoga. After graduating from karma yoga, I go to Vanaprastha, where the focus is predominantly Upasana yoga, because you are in the Vanam, you are in the forest. And Sannyasa, you follow Jnana yoga. So there is a lifestyle prescribed for each of these activities. And here, in this 11th mantra, you can see that it says Aranye, in the forest, in the Vanam. And for the 11th mantra here is talking about Upasana in Vanaprastha, right, in the forest. And Upasana also can be divided into two, Sakama, Nishkama. Sakama Upasana, just like Sakama Karma, is for improving your standard of living, asking for material benefits. And the difference is that Sakama Karma gives you a certain level of punyam, and Sakama Upasana gives you more punyam because it is a mental activity also. And therefore, in Sakama Upasana, you can have a higher standard of living. You can ask for more material benefits than in Sakama Karma. The reasoning is very simple. Because the mind is a subtle instrument, and because focusing it for a few seconds even is a very difficult job, Upasana is tougher than karma, right? Even 2 minutes chanting without distraction is quite tough. Right? If your mind is focused on the chanting, you're making it Upasana. And that mental chanting, I'm saying, right? You're making it Upasana. And that benefit which comes from that focused Upasana is therefore so much higher because the karma itself, the Upasana itself is very much higher. And that is why a Sakama Upasaka will go to superior world called Satyaloka, Brahmaloka. It is the seventh world. And there also, remember, pleasures are there also. So even if you go to Brahmaloka, you have the choice always of either enjoying the pleasures and coming back. As I said, there are these 6 higher lokas, and what is said is that the level of pleasures available in each loka is higher with each higher loka. Therefore, with that logic, Brahmaloka has the maximum number of pleasures. But because you are a Upasaka, you have got a clear focus in your mind. Therefore, Chitta Shuddhi is there. That Chitta Shuddhi, we think there is a possibility, very strong possibility, that you will reject the pleasures in Brahmaloka and you will go for Jnana. That's why we say the possibility of return from Brahmaloka is not negated, but it is lower than that of the other lokas. Now, what happens when a pure Sakama Karmi dies? A person who has only Sakama Karmi dies. What is the difference vis-a-vis a person who is a Upasaka also? Like he has done Sakama Karma accompanied by Upasaka. So 2 people have died. One is a Karmi, one is a Upasaka. And we know now the Sakama Karmi goes to Swargaloka, any one of the Swargalokas, depending upon how much Punyam he has. The Sakama Upasaka goes to Brahmaloka. When I say they go to lokas, basically the Sthula Shariram does not travel, right? Sthula Shariram goes back to Panchabhutas. Atma does not travel. What travels? Only the Jiva, which is the Sukshama plus Karna Shariram complex. That is what travels. And the primary component is what? The prana and the mind. This mixture is called the Jivatma. This Jivatma leaves the physical body and according to the level of Punyam goes either to Swarga or Brahmaloka. How do they leave is the question, right? Now, when we do Katha Upanishad, you will see that there is a mantra which says that the body, the Sukshma Shariram, has nadis. So it's difficult to translate the word nadi. You can think of it as astral channels. Like very roughly, if you look at the physical body, there is nerves originating from the brain and traveling everywhere. Similarly, in this Sukshma Shariram, there are nadis which originate from the heart and travel in all directions to all the ends of the body, right? So there's no real English word for nadi. Many English commentators use the word astral channel. So I'm using the same. And when the jiva dies, when the body dies, physical body dies, the jiva has to leave the physical body. And the Veda says that according to the karma phalam, the jiva will go out through one of these nadis. So either the eyes or the ears or the lower opening. One of these nadis he will leave. And having gone out of the nadis, the jiva will travel. And after travel, we saw in chapter 8 also, there are two gatis, two paths. The Krishna gati, which is the dark path, and the Shukla gati, which is the bright path. So Krishna gati, if you travel, you will go to one of the Swargalokas. Shukla gati, if you travel, you will go to Brahma Loka. So it is only by Shukla gati that you can go to Brahma Loka and have the opportunity to get Krama Mukti. Krama means sequential. So why sequential? Body dies, you go to Brahma Loka, you study Jnanam, and then you get Mukti. Right? So you get Mukti in a sequence. The first is the death here, and then only you get Mukti. So Krama Mukti. When we study Brahma Sutras, which is far away, you will find there's a long discussion on this. And therefore, Vidvamsaha. The Vidvamsaha is the Upasaka. What do? They live in a secluded atmosphere. Aranye Upavasanti. They live in the forest. And because there are no distractions, their mind is Shantam. And therefore, since they live in the Aranyam, Aranyam is also called Vanam. And therefore, they are also called Vanins, one who lives in a forest. Okay, in the modern context, we have to look at Vanam as a Upalakshanam. Upalakshanam is a what do you call, generic word, a figurative reference, meaning a place where you get the same benefit as you get in a Vanam. Right? What is the benefit in a Vanam? You are away from the daily hustle and bustle of Grihastha life. Right? You don't have to earn your living. You don't have to get up in the morning to get the milk and boil the milk. All these things you don't have to do. So it's a figurative reference to the benefits available by living in a Vanam. And when you say, I'm using it as Upalakshanam, any lifestyle where you are getting the same benefits, that you can take as Vanaprastha. So that, of course, is a compromised version of the original Vanaprastha, because Vanaprastha means going to the forest. Vanaprasthanam, going to the forest. But in our case, we can say it as if we have reduced four things. If you have reduced your possessions, if you have reduced the obligatory duties, which of course arises from relationships, if you have reduced the dependence upon relationships, and if you have reduced all the transactions which arise out of these three, possessions, relationships, and other duties, then you can say that it's effectively Vanaprastha. This reduction in possessions, obligatory duties, relationships, and transactions. P-O-R-T, port. Reductions in port. That is a compromised version of Vanaprastha. And therefore the mantra says, Tapashraddheye hi upavasanti aranye. Upavasanti aranye. He stays in the Vanam. He stays in the forest, in the place where there are no disturbances. What does he do? Tapashraddhe. He does tapas and he does shraddha. Okay, both are technical words which in Sanskrit we call paribhasha shabdaha. Tapaha means all the karma which is required to be followed in your particular ashrama. So whether you are a grahastha or a vanaprastha or a sannyasi, there are always, the Veda always gives certain amount of karmas for each ashrama, which are the nitya karmas for each ashrama. And tapaha here means those karmas. Tapaha here does not mean austerity. That you should note. And shraddha here, shraddha normally means devotion, but shraddha here means upasana. So tapa, shraddha, right? And what upasana is this? And this, of course, Shankaracharya very clearly writes in his Bhashyam, Hiranya Garbhadi Vishaya Vidya. Hiranya Garbhadi Vishaya Vidya. So Vidya again is a technical term here. You will find that in many Upanishads, the term Vidya is used to refer to meditation, upasana. And therefore, Shankara is saying that Shraddha is Vidya, Upasana, on Vishaya, on objects like Hiranyagarbha Adi, like Hiranyagarbha, etc. Which means essentially Vidya means meditation, Upasana on Saguna Ishvara. And Shraddha here is to be taken as Saguna Ishvara Upasana. Okay. It would have been far easier to write Upasana, but the mantra has written Shraddha, and we don't question what the mantra has written. So I have to look at Shankara's clarification only. So this person's life is predominantly Saguna Ishvara oriented. What has he done? He has simplified his life. His business engagements, his work engagements have been totally given up. His family engagements have been reduced. And his life is now committed to religious activity, jnanam only. And because of this reduction of various activities which disturb the mind, right? The port, your professional activities, your family obligations, your transactions, they are all capable of disturbing the mind. Therefore, when you reduce them, what is the effect? The effect is as if you have gone into a forest. And therefore, Shantaha Vidvamsaha. Vidvamsaha is to say that they are in the process of acquiring jnana. And Shantaha, here you have to take, in our language, you have to take it as they have resolved their minds. The FIR is low now. In our language, they have a low FIR. They have Chitta Shuddhi, and because of that, Vidvamsaha, they are eligible for Jnanam, and therefore they will study. Okay, you can also remember that the Vidvamsaha can refer to Karmakanda also. Why? Because you can connect it to the word Shantaha. Shantaha means Chitta Shuddhi. So they can also interpret as they have lived the life of Karma Yoga as mandated in the Shastram. And therefore, what has happened? They have become peaceful. So here, Shankara defines Shantaha as a very complex word. Uparata Karana Gramaha. Okay, so it's far easier to understand the word Shanta as peaceful, but Shankara's definition is Uparata Karana Gramaha. Karanam is what? Indriyas, right? The instruments that you have. Gramam is what?
Grama is a village.
Gramam is a village.
Yeah.
Therefore,
Yeah.
Karana Gramam means the village of Indriyas. So how will you understand that?
Withdrawal of all the
group of Indriyas. So Gramam here can be taken as a group. Karana Gramam means all your Indriyas, all the group of Indriyas. Uparata is withdrawal. So Uparata Karana Gramaha, the group of Indriyas having been withdrawn. That's why I said it's far easier to understand the word Shanta. Shankara's definition of Shanta is more complicated than the word itself. Which means basically a person who leads a quiet life, having reduced all activities which have the capability to disturb the mind. Therefore, port is reduced. And then what can they do? They can choose to become Vividisha sannyasis. They can choose to become a sannyasi for the purpose of acquiring knowledge. So Vividisha we have seen before also. Veditim Ucha. Having the desire to know. That's one form of sannyas. The people who join an ashram and take sannyas because they want to know, they are called Vividisha sannyasis. So he knows what he wants. His mind is now reduced. That is why they say from Vanaprastha, people can take sannyasa because of this. Vanaprastha brings you to a state of mind where your mind is very quiet, where there is reduced FIR. And therefore, if you want to study Jnanam, there are no disturbances. And one way of doing that is to renounce the world completely. So that is Vividisha Sannyasaha. Okay, what are the other types of Sannyasaha? We saw that in the Gita classes. Chapter 2 we have seen. There is a sannyasa called Vidvat Sannyasaha. Vidvat means the one who has got knowledge. So this person unlike the Vividisha sannyasi, this person has not taken sannyasa because he wants to study. He already has the knowledge. Having the knowledge, he knows there is nothing more to be done in this world, nothing more to be gained. He knows he has no other activity to be done for moksha. And therefore, he takes sannyasa to make himself totally free of the duties obtaining in any ashrama. And therefore, a jnani opting for sannyasa is called vidhivat sannyasa. The third one we have seen elsewhere also, apata sannyasa. This is sannyasa in anticipation of death, when the person does not want to die a grihastha. Okay, this is, reference is there in Shastra. Apata is danger. In this case, there is no need for a formal guru, etc. You simply say that I am a sannyasi. Okay, and that's it. So that is, and the last one, which Krishna has talked about. What is that? So we have seen Vividisha sannyasa, Vidvat sannyasa, Apata sannyasa, and there is one more sannyasa which is very, very important. And Krishna has talked about it.
Kevala sannyasa.
Sorry?
Kevala sannyasa.
No.
Hello, Raviji, may I try?
Please, Natarajji.
Yeah, there is a mental sannyas, where in the mind you renounce everything.
Excellent. So, Antara sannyasa, internal sannyasa. You are a jnani, but you don't see the necessity to take that orange robe. In fact, in there's a text called Ashtavakra Gita, a beautiful text which we will do sooner or later. Later, I think, not sooner. In that, Ashtavakra tells Janaka, that the one who takes sannyasa is a fool, he says. Do you know why he says he's a fool? Because he says he thinks there is something to be given up. And that this is also called Jnana Karma Sannyasa, which was the title of one of the chapters that we have already done. Okay, which means essentially what? That you have sannyasa is tyaga, renunciation of. And what have you renounced? The identification with the body. So Antara sannyasa, which is the most important sannyasa, it requires deha abhimana tyaga. It requires giving up your identification with the body, which means giving up all worrying thoughts, which also means giving up specific prayers for yourself or for your family members. Okay, so that is all part of Jnana Karma Sannyasa. When you know that you are Brahman and you know everything else is Mithya, so nothing belongs to you. And that is why Ashtavakra says, the one who takes sannyasa is a fool because he thinks that there is something to be renounced. Then the next words are Bhaiksha Charyam Charantaha. So he goes around taking bhiksha for food. So vanaprasthas are permitted by the Shastram to take bhiksha, right? It's therefore what it's to be noted here that unlike the normal understanding, to be eligible for bhiksha according to Shastra, you need not be a sannyasi. You can also be a vanaprasthi. And Shankara confirms this. He says, he is a vidvamsaha because he has taken to this life for jnanam. And because he has taken to the life for jnanam, he is eligible for bhiksha. That's why in vanaprastha you will find that most rituals or most sadhanas are in the form of japa and parayanam. Why? Because for any ritual, you require materials. For any materials, you require money. And the vanaprasthi doesn't have any money. So this particular life, that is why it's called tapaha. And what happens to them after the death of the physical body? Surya dvarena te virajaha. Through the path of the sun, through the solar path, through the Shuklagati, they travel. And while traveling, virajaha, they are free of rajas, which means free of viraja is viraja, vina rajaha, vina rajas. So they are pure, they are free of punyam and papam, which is generated by rajas. And prayanti, he travels by Shuklagatihi. Where does he go to? To Brahmalokaha. Okay, Now here Shankara makes a comment. He says that when you look at Virajaha, you have to understand as, almost Virajaha, almost free of Papam and Punyam. It's a very interesting reason. What is the reason? Why cannot you take the person who travels through the solar path as completely free of Punyam and Papam? Because Viraja means completely free of Punyam and Papam.
Hello, Raviji, may I try that?
Please, Rajanji.
Someone wants to try first, it's okay. I heard some other person trying to say. Or should I go ahead?
No,
Go ahead.
please go ahead. Please go ahead, sir. Please go ahead.
Now, if you are completely free, then you will have no subtle body left. You need a subtle body to take you from place X to place Y.
Absolutely. So, what Shankara is saying that if you are totally free of Punyam, then what is it that carries you to Brahmaloka? It is the Punyam which carries you to. And completely free of Punyam and Papam means, as Narayan says, there is no subtle body. Moksha is already attained, right? A person who is completely free of Punyam and Papam, there is no moksha. There is no question of traveling. He is already even mukta. So here, that is one understanding. Other understanding is that if you are free of Punyam, how will you travel? Because it is the Punyam which takes you. Okay, so, and therefore, Shankara says that you have to take it as this Surya Dwara as equivalent to Shukla Gatihi. And where do they go to? They go to that place which is Brahmaloka, where Lord Brahmaji is the ruler. So Yatra Amritaha Sapurushaha Avyayatma. That Amrita is a nectar, and that is why you have to understand why the word nectar is being used. It gives a long and useful life. And that's why you go to Hiranyagarbha Loka, which is Brahma Loka, where Brahmaji is the ruler, and Avyayatma simply indicates that the nature is immortal. And again, whenever you say Hiranyagarbha is immortal, you have to be careful. And therefore Shankara adds over here, Yavat Samsara Thaihi. That immortality lasts as long as the universe lasts. Brahmaji is mortal or immortal? He is mortal. Because Brahmaji was born and therefore he has to die. So he cannot be immortal. How do we know that Brahmaji was born? What is the Pramanam?
Sir, from Antaryami,
What is the
Hiranyagarbha is
Pramanam?
born.
What is the Shruti Pramanam to say Brahmaji was born? You've forgotten the first mantra of this Upanishad. Brahma Devanam
yes.
Pratama Sambhabhuva.
Sambhabhuva.
Right.
First
Sambhabhuta.
born from Ishvara was Brahmaji. Okay. So with that, we'll
Yes.
stop for today. Any questions?
Acharya.
Yeah.
So when the jiva goes to Brahmaloka,
Yeah.
the coming back to lower births is not 100% assured, right? The jiva has choice there to
He has
choose
a
to
choice to
learn or enjoy.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. So with this, any questions? Anybody else? All right. Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnam Eva Vasishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Om Tat Sat Om Namah Shivaya. Thank you for your patience.